Hello, everyone, and welcome. In our study of business administration, it can sometimes feel like there are two different worlds. Over here, you've got the world of mathematics, precise, sometimes a little abstract, and over there, you've got the world of business strategy, dynamic, fast-paced, and all about results. Well, today, we're going to tear down that wall. We're going to take a core idea from calculus, something called integration, and show you how it becomes an incredibly powerful tool for anyone sitting in the C-suite. So let's kick things off with a question that really gets to the heart of business. Anytime a sale happens, you sell a product, service, anything, the accountants write down the price on the receipt. But as strategic thinkers, we have to know that price, well, it's not the whole story, not even close. Beneath that one number, there's this entire hidden landscape of value. See, from the customer side, there's the absolute maximum they would have been willing to pay before walking away. And from your side, the producer, there's a rock bottom minimum you would have accepted. The space between those two numbers is this pool of extra value, what economists call market surplus. Our goal today isn't just to talk about this surplus, it's to measure it with cold, hard math. All right, so here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start by really nailing down this question of value. Then we'll introduce our main tool for the day, which comes straight from calculus. After that, we'll take that tool and apply it directly to the concepts of consumer and producer surplus, so we can actually measure them. And finally, and this is the part where it all comes together for your future careers, we're going to talk about why this all matters. This is where the theory turns into a serious strategic advantage. Okay, let's dive right into section 1, the question of value. Before we can start calculating anything, we've got to be on the same page about what value really means in a market, because it's so much more than what's on the price tag. Think of that price on the receipt as just the tip of the iceberg. For the buyer, what's underwater is their total benefit or utility. It's not just what the product does, it's the problem it solves, the time it saves, maybe even the status it gives them. For you, the seller, the hidden part of your iceberg is your entire cost structure, not just materials and labor, but your opportunity cost. What else could you have done with that time and money? The price is just where these two icebergs meet. But our job as smart business leaders is to understand the entire hidden structure of value that's lurking beneath the surface. So we have this idea of hidden value. But how in the world do we actually put a number on it? How do we measure it? For that, we need to borrow a very specific tool. And it doesn't come from a business textbook. It comes from the world of calculus. And that tool is called integration. Now, I know you've all spent a lot of time in other classes on its opposite, which is differentiation. Remember, differentiation is like putting something under a microscope. It finds the rate of change at one single specific point. Integration, though, is a total opposite. It's like a wide-angle lens. It's all about accumulation. It lets us add up an infinite number of tiny, tiny little pieces to get a precise total for a whole area. This slide really lays it out. The mental shift here is so important. Differentiation breaks things down into tiny pieces. Integration builds those pieces up to show you the whole picture. So let's think about this in business terms. A demand curve tells you what a customer would pay for the next single item. That's a concept based on differentiation. But integration lets us ask a much bigger, more powerful question. What's the total value that customers get from all the items sold up to a certain point? We're not just breaking things down anymore. We're building them up to see the entire economic story. Now, I know this might still sound a little abstract, calculating the area under a curve. But I want to be really clear, this one single ability is the key that unlocks this whole problem of measuring hidden value. Before calculus, people could only guess at these areas. But the integral gives us the power to find the exact value. And in the world of business, in finance, in strategy, precision isn't just nice to have, it's everything. It's the foundation of every good decision. This brings us to a really common and really good question. Okay, great, we can find a geometric area. How does that magically turn into economic value, into actual dollars and cents? Well, the magic is in the axes of our graphs. The vertical y-axis, that's price, right? It's measured in dollars per unit. And the horizontal x-axis is quantity, which is measured in, well, units. So when you calculate an area, you're essentially multiplying the height times the width. You're multiplying dollars per unit by units. And what happens? The units cancel each other out, and you're left with dollars. That geometric area literally represents a total amount of money. It's an incredibly powerful link between geometry and economic. All right, so let's move on to section 3. We understand the concept of value, and we have our mathematical tool, integration. Now it's time to put them together. Let's apply this tool to actually measure what we call market surplus. This right here, this is the aha moment. This is where it all connects. That area under the curve that we now know how to calculate isn't just a number. It's a direct measurement of the total extra value, the total wealth that's being created for everyone in the market. It's the economic benefit that exists just because this market is operating, and it's split between two groups: the consumers who buy and the producers who sell. So first, let's look at the consumers piece of the pie, consumer surplus. This is their share of that hidden value. Let's make it real. Imagine you need a textbook for this class. You know it's crucial, and you've decided you'd be willing to pay up to, say, $150 for it. You get to the bookstore, and you find it for $120. That $30 difference, that's your consumer surplus. You got something that you valued at $150, but you only had to give up $120. You captured $30 of value. You feel like you got a good deal, right? Well, the power of integration is that it lets us add up that good deal feeling for every single student who bought that book to find the total consumer surplus for the entire market. Now, let's flip it around. On the other side, there's producer surplus. Let's think about the book publisher. Let's say it costs them $70 to print and ship one more copy of that textbook. That's their absolute minimum price to not lose money on that one book. But they sold it for a price that lets the bookstore sell it for $120. That difference between what they got and their $70 minimum, that's their surplus on that sale. It's the extra benefit they get, and it's a huge part of what makes up their profit. And this slide just perfectly sums up the two sides of the coin. The total value that's created is just the consumer surplus plus the producer surplus. And the market price, think of that as the knife that slices the pie. A lower price gives a bigger slice of the value pie to consumers. A higher price gives a bigger slice to producers. As a business strategist, your job is to understand how big that pie is and exactly how the price is slicing it up. Which brings us to our final, and I think most important section. We have the definitions, we have the math, but let's bring this all back to the real world, back to your careers. Why should a CEO, a marketing director, or a financial analyst care about integral calculus?
Let me be absolutely clear about this. This is not just some academic exercise to pass an exam. This is one of the most powerful ways of thinking that you will learn from making real-world, high-stakes business decisions. The ability to actually put a number on surplus is like being able to read the DNA of your market. It shows you everything about value, desire, and cost. The strategic process here is really simple, but it's also incredibly powerful. Step 1, you use the math, the calculus, to measure the size of the total value pie. Step 2, you understand how that pie is getting sliced up between your customers and your company. And step 3, well, this is where you earn your paycheck. You strategize. Knowing the size of that pie and how it's being cut gives you a massive advantage when you're deciding how to price your products, who to market to, and where to invest your money. Let's get really practical here. This analysis gives you actionable intelligence. For example, let's say your analysis shows there's a huge consumer surplus for your product. What does that tell you? It tells you your customers feel like they're getting an amazing deal. That's a great sign for brand loyalty, but strategically, it also hints that you might have some untapped pricing power. You might be able to raise your prices a bit, capture more of that surplus for your company without scaring everyone away. On the other hand, if you find that consumer surplus is razor thin, you know you're in a commodity market. You're in a dogfight on price, and any price increase could be a total disaster. This one number can literally inform every decision you make, from a weekend sale to a billion-dollar product launch. So I'll leave you with this final thought. I want you to imagine you're a manager, and you have this incredible tool. You can perfectly measure the surplus your product creates, especially for different groups of customers. What do you do? The answer isn't just raise the price. No way. The whole strategic playbook opens up. Maybe you create a pro version at a higher price for your power users to capture their high surplus. Maybe you create different packages. The point is, when you can see and measure this hidden value, you stop being a passive price taker who just reacts to the market. You become a proactive, strategic price maker who shapes the market. And mastering this mathematical tool is what gets you there. It will be one of the most powerful instruments in your entire managerial toolkit. Thank you.